Kia ora koutou, I'm Eva and welcome to Papakainga TV. Today I'll be joined by Nathan Wallace.
Assistant role already. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Today, as usual, we're going to be looking at a summary of the research, the evidence about how to support you best and your children while at home during lockdown. So, let's get right into it. Key message for today is talk to each other. It's all around communication and just how important communication is to mental health and wellbeing. We've got to keep people talking. So, our topics, Eva's got them all listed down there for me.
Yep.
Yeah. So, what are we going to look at?
So, risk-taking.
Risk-taking in language, because you can't look at language and communication in the brain without looking at the crucial role of risk-taking and how that impacts on intelligence. So there's one of our sections. I know we've got that interview with Tania around strategies. What are strategies that you can use that are nice and easy, you can implement straight away, don't cost any money, for enhancing language and communication in your brain and enhancing well-being. And
why is it good?
Why is it good? Yeah, of course. Yeah. The why. The why. Yep. Why do we need to worry about language and communication? How is that going to work in the brain? Why does it enhance our children's health and well-being? Actually, that's probably a good one to start with. Start with the why, and then we will look at the how, and go from
And
there.
the what and the when.
Yep, sweet. Okay, into it. Okay, let's start with the why then. The role of language and communication in the brain, why interaction is so important to your child's mental health and overall well-being. Your brain, as a biological entity, is mainly there for the purpose of interacting with other brains and having a relationship. So that makes interaction and language crucial to your brain's overall health and well-being. In fact, you can summarise a whole lot of complicated psychological research by simply understanding that you need to get the information and the feelings outside of the child's brain. Damage tends to be associated when children don't express, when they internalise those feelings. So, like I say, just focus on getting it out, getting them talking. That means you don't have to fix every problem. That's not the focus. The focus is simply to get them talking about it. So whatever strategies work for you. We've given you some strategies already in terms of, we talked about mate dates. We talked about the importance of responsive care, that, we need to let them lead. We sometimes need to leave an uncomfortably long and, for us, awkward gap while we wait for them to formulate their feelings and not quickly fill the space with what we think, responsive interactions. So we've already looked at some of those strategies, but now we're going to explore a few more. Let's have a look now at the disposition that's going to underpin all of those strategies and bring them to life. The learning disposition that you need to acquire language is essentially risk-taking. Risk-taking is important to your overall intelligence right across the board, but it's especially relevant when we talk about language, because language is not something that you master and then use, but is something that involves lots of trial and error all the way through. I mean, you see that as a parent, because your child didn't remain silent for like a year and then suddenly say, "Can I have a drink, please?" They started out with dink, dink, and that then develops into language. So in order for them to develop that language, we have to encourage risk-taking, because language is risk-taking. Unfortunately, your brain gives way more focus to negative feedback than positive feedback. So when someone's criticised you for your language use or your bad pronunciation, that has a big impact on the brain, and unfortunately tends to undo the other 10 previous people that have said good on you for having a go, because the brain focuses on that negative feedback. Now that really kills risk-taking, and to acquire language we want to have a risk-taking environment. So rather than correct children's language, we want to focus on modelling the correct language without ever correcting, because that way they improve more risk-taking. Let me give you an example. If we're walking down the road, let's say we're driving down the road, child's in the back seat, and he goes, "Oh, there's a horsey out the window." Now if you say, "Actually it's a horse," you don't say horsey, then you might think you're helping to improve their language. What we see in the research is that child uses far less language for the following hour because you corrected them. Whereas if you had just simply said, "Oh, I can see the horse out the window too," you're modelling correct language without being corrected. The child then uses more language in the next hour because he's confident to risk-take. Your language acquisition is much more about how much language you use rather than how often your parents correct you. Correcting doesn't help at all, modelling does. So encourage risk-taking. Every time we use a new word, attempt a new language, it feels a little bit awkward. It's not fully myelinated in your brain yet. You're going to have to do it around about 90 times before it does feel comfortable, because then it'll probably be myelinated. So risk-taking allows you to get through that 90 times at a really fast speed, because you're not too scared, you feel the fear and do it anyway, and even though you feel a bit awkward, you practice and you try and you keep going. That means you get your 90 times done in only a week, whereas a more apprehensive person that is scared of risk-taking, scared of looking silly, doesn't have a safe environment, they might take 3 years to get the same amount of myelin on their brain. That's why risk-taking is so huge to the acquisition of language in your brain. Kia ora, ko Nathan tēnā.
Oh, kia ora, Nathan, ko Tania tēnā.
Oh, kia ora, Tania. Ka te pēhea koe ho.
Oh, tino pai aho.
You're just the person I wanted to talk to.
Oh, ka pai.
Yeah. Today we're talking about revitalising languages, talking about te reo Māori, but really the value of everybody maintaining their first language and the value of having a diversity of languages overall. But I thought we could talk to you about our very own Indigenous language, te reo Māori, because I know you're a Māori language teacher.
Yes. I am not a native speaker. I learned te reo myself, and one of the things I love about being a te reo Māori teacher is I get to be in the reo all the time.
Yep.
Whereas at home, when I'm not actually teaching, there's not a lot of reo happening because my husband doesn't speak te reo Māori, although he is learning, which is nice. So it's a matter of determining, I think, what your goals are. So for me, it's about maintaining my levels and my vocabulary and all of that sort of thing. For somebody else, it might be, where do I start? And for somebody else, it might be, I'm partway through my first year and now I can't go to school. What do I do?
Yeah.
So some of the things that I do is I've really been enjoying Hemi Kelly's Māori Phrase a Day on Facebook.
Okay, so you're going to sign up to Facebook, follow him, and you've got a Māori Phrase a Day.
Yeah, so
that's a great easy
he's
strategy.
He's a Māori language teacher at AUT, so he knows his stuff.
Right.
And he's written a book called Māori Phrase a Day, and so he's using that to connect with people. He's also just launched Everyday Māori on Instagram, so if you're not a Facebooker, you can head over to the Insta.
Okay, yeah.
I think that's what the young people call it.
Yep.
So that's really helpful. Also, too, if you go to maoridictionary.co.nz, and scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's a link there to Tōku Reo, which is a Māori language learning TV program.
Okay.
So each episode, is a Māori language lesson, so you'll learn vocab and some sentence structures and context. Okay. So that's a kind of a nice place to start.
There's regular stuff like that on Māori TV too, isn't there?
Yeah. Māori TV is great, and one of the really cool things about Māori TV is its content, and you can just have it on in the background, even if you're not paying attention. What you're hearing is the rhythm and the rere of the reo.
And your brain's taking all of that in, and it does help.
Yeah, use the kupu that you do have. So, use your greetings and your karakia, and there are lots of places you can go online to find waiata to sing along with.
It is about keeping it active in your brain, and I think what you said there about using the words that you've got. So actually, you do know how to say kia ora. So if you tell your brain, okay, I'm not going to say hello for the next 3 months, I'm just going to say kia ora, because that way, instead of only having said kia ora 7 times, I would have said it 700 times if I get it to replay. So use what you've got and get your brain going. So that's been fabulous, Tania. That's given us lots of online resources and some strategies we can use straight away. So kia ora iho, kia ora mo tō tautoko.
Oh, me koe hoki.
Great, we'll talk to you soon. Ka kite.
Kia pai tēnā.
Because you're and many people your age are the first generation to have that language right from the time they're born. It's a very repetitive story. The language for te reo Māori is very similar as in lots of people in my generation, their grandparents were first language speakers. I mean, I'm obviously not speaking for everybody, but this is a common story. Grandparents, first language speakers, they're in a generation that learn, no, you shouldn't speak it, should teach the kids English, that's the way to go. So they try and not speak Māori and only speak English to the kids. And so that's my parents' generation, if you like, and they grow up not valuing it because their parents aren't speaking it to them, but actually hearing it around a bit, so they've got some knowledge. It's my generation tend to be the first generation that had completely nothing, because not only did we have no kapaka at school, no te reo Māori at school, our parents had a little bit but didn't use it. So we're the first generation to have none, and then we grew up going, we've missed out here, and then we put our kids into, like we did with you, into kohanga, and so you get that revitalisation. So we've got different perspectives, because it's always going to be a second language for me, whereas it's a first language for you. Any other advantages that you see immediately? You said about the spelling one.
Yes, spelling. I think also growing up doing kapahaka and having to do water and stuff when people are talking, I think naturally I'm more confident as a person.
Right.
And I don't, I still get times that I'm shy, but I don't think that's as common as most of my friends don't have to get up and sing with just their mum to a group of strangers. Every time someone talks, because we're the only ones who know the song. Whereas, so I kind of get that advantage, and I feel like it kind of probably boosted my self-esteem as well. Just being more confident, I think that helps.
On the line, we've got my friend Latu, and he's going to help with some strategies, tips and suggestions for while we're in lockdown. Talofa, Latu.
Yeah, malo uso. How are you?
I'm brilliant, mate. It's good to see your face. Thanks for joining us. So what can you offer us, Latu? We're at home, we're in lockdown, lots of families wanting to extend their language, whichever language that is from the Pacific. Any strategies, tips, suggestions you've got to offer?
Okay, so I'm going to get straight into it, but I just want to say, firstly, we're all trying to learn, so nobody's perfect, but I'm offering what I've learned so far.
Kate's pie.
So simple around the house, like come and go. So I might say to the kids, hey, so, which means come.
Right, great.
Alu means go, so simple phrases like that.
Yep. Repetition.
Teaching simple techniques. Yep. Teaching simple techniques like talofa.
Yep.
Or those are the simple language greetings of respect to one another. So I'll teach that with the kids. We'll sit down and we'll practice it and learn those soundings of how they're supposed to be said.
Right.
And then from there, they'll practice with someone in my family, because my mum, who's their nana, she's about 85, and she speaks Samoan only, and I say to her, don't speak English, mum, just speak Samoan.
Tino pai tō whakaaro.
So she'll go, malo lava tameti, like, hey kids, and they'll go, malo mum. So then they're looking at me a little bit nervous, because my kids are Afakasi, so they're half Palangi, half Samoan, and so they'll be nervous, but they'll practice because they feel safe with mum. So, and it's very simple stuff like that.
When you're in home, Latu, now that are you still connected to all of those whānau members while you're in lockdown? Like you're having Skype calls and that sort of stuff to keep that up?
Yeah, it's quite emotional, really, because that's our connection. Our family is our link.
Yes.
It's what binds us together. So when we do that, there's a lot of emotion. Yeah.
Is there any, just as we go, is there anything online that the parents can go and look at? Like, I imagine the mountain of stuff, but anything you'd recommend as a good site?
Yes, so we go to the Learning Samoan Basic Language. So Leva and I have scheduled a time to go through the YouTube Learning Basic Samoan and just type it in. Learn Basic Samoan.
That's simple. Hey, thanks for sharing that, Latu, and taking some time out. I know you're at home with 3 tamariki there, so really appreciate your time, buddy. We might talk to you again in the future.
Yep.
That'd be excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, you too, buddy. Stay connected. In terms of summarising the evidence for you, then it would be remiss of me not to point out how important it is to maintain your first language. It's very, very clear in the literature that children who maintain their first language, I mean, we've talked about the benefits of second language, this is about maintaining your first language. So if you went from a country that doesn't speak English, coming to New Zealand, when you maintain that first language, those children have much higher self-esteem. They feel much better about themselves. I mean, that's reward in itself. But also understand that how you feel about yourself and your self-esteem really impacts on your overall intelligence, because your self-esteem and how good you feel about yourself empowers you to move into the learning process. Someone who feels good about themselves is much more likely to engage in learning than someone that doesn't. So self-esteem is a critical part of intelligence, and maintaining your first language is a critical part of that self-esteem. So we want to celebrate all those languages. Hey, thanks for joining us, everybody. Kia ora mō tō tautoko. Tomorrow we're going to dive into the deep end and look at some of your more individual situations that you've provided through feedback. So thank you so much for that feedback. And just any final words from you, my Portuguese, around language?
I think just be proud. Don't expect yourself to be fluent straight away. It is a process, but just be proud that you're trying.
Great, I love that. Be proud. Good advice. I think my final word will have to be around using the resources that are available to you. We've got some amazing resources online. Have a look at Scotty Morrison and Stacey Morrison. They've got amazing resources online for supporting your whānau, your family, anywhere you are on that language acquisition journey, whether you're right at the very start or, further advanced. So embrace what we've got. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow. Ka kite whānau.